Alright, so Atsdarva made a video talking about his concerns with the 2024 roadmap, and I noticed it's not just him. There's a lot of people who have a lot of concerns with this roadmap. Honestly, I think it looks great, to be 100% straight up. I think some perks that needed to be nerfed are getting nerfed. 3-genning was a major problem in the past. It depends on how they implement it, like he said. This video is to address just the concerns that a lot of people are bringing up, Otstarva included. It seems that the most controversial part of this whole entire list is the killer tweaks section for the second set of killers. You have the killer updates for the Unreal, Hillbilly, and Blight, and then you have the killer tweaks for the Hag, Huntress, Pig, Clown, Demogorgon, and Doctor. So, first thing I'll bring up right off the rip is, according to Dead by Daylight's own statistics, their own kill rate statistics and pick rates and stuff like that they released last year, these killers are all on the lower end of the scale. Like, they have the lowest kill rates in the game. Huntress has, out of all these killers on here, I think Huntress is the lowest, and that's due to a variety of reasons, being a free-to-play killer, the only free-to-play ranged killer, and being the only free female killer that's easy to play, in comparison to Nurse, because Nurse is hard for new people, and the fact that there's 7 indoor maps, and, another 20 maps on top of it that are just terrible for her power. So that's why she's so low. But it is interesting to note that these killers are all on the lower end of the spectrum, and that was last year. Okay, that was last year. That was before Made for This. That was before the Made for This Hope meta. That was before the Made for This Resilience Hope meta. So I have no doubt in my mind, at least when it comes to the Hag, the Huntress, and the Pig, and probably Doctor, those 4 killers suffered the most from that meta. Because if you think about it, Hag and Huntress are 110 killers, right? So that 3% increase, it's not just a 3%, it's going from 100 to 103, but the killer's 110, so that's a 30% increase in distance that the survivors gain on a 110 killer, right? And yes, Huntress is a projectile killer, so you would think that that doesn't matter, but it actually matters a lot, especially when it comes to indoor maps, when it comes to knowing your timing and stuff like that. You can circle Shack twice, and on the second time, they're going to hit the window, and if you time it perfectly, you have literally just a fraction of a second to land the hatchet, but you can hit them as they're vaulting the window, right? Well, with Made for This, that threw the timing all off, okay? And then you add Resilience on top of that, that throws the timing off even more. And then you add Hope, and when it gets to the end game, I mean, it's just GG's, you know what I mean? You can get down still, but it's very, very difficult. So the main concern was, a lot of people think that these killers are all in good spots and very well balanced, and they don't need any changes. And what most people say, and what Otsdarva said, especially when it comes to the Huntress, they always say she's in a pretty good spot. She's in a good state. She's in a pretty good state. All right, well, pretty good and good are not the same, right? There's a clear reason why she has lower kill rates, whether that be from new people, whether that be from the Made for This Hope Resilience meta, even though those kill rates were out before then. So I'm sure she was at 58%. I'm sure she's down to probably 54, 50% now. They're probably going back up now that Made for This is nerfed. But the point still stands. These killers have inherent problems with them in every single way, and I'll go through all of them. But the Huntress is the easiest example to provide, because she is a pretty good killer, balance-wise. She's pretty fair, but pretty fair is not fair. There's 7 indoor maps that completely gut her power. Completely gut her power. You got RPD East and West Wing. You got Gideon. You got Larry's Memorial Institute. You got Hawkins, and you got Midwich. So that's 7 indoor maps where you have a power, but it's just you can't use it in the way that generates you a good match, per se. Especially on Larry's, that's one of the worst maps for Huntress by far, with all the windows and doorways. And people always say, oh, and not to mention Badham 1 through 5, terrible maps for Huntress. Half of the McMillan Estate maps that have the really low tree lines, like you got the tree trunk and then the tree top, but for some reason it's like right here, you know what I mean? And then you got maps like the Shattered Borgo, which was actually a really solid map for Huntress in the past, even though it was really big, which really big maps are a problem for her too, actually, because she's 110, takes forever to cross it and defend a gen, right? But now the new Borgo's smaller, which makes it better for her, but there's just so much shit. There's so many line of sight blockers. There's so many, walls and stuff like that. And people always say that's a map problem, not a killer problem. And yes, it is a map problem because she's a good killer on all the other maps. I'd say there's probably 20 to 30 maps where she's, you know, way weaker than she should be. It is a map problem, but they're not going to fix those maps, so they should fix the killer. The problem is, though, if you fix the killer and make her viable on indoor maps, then she's going to be way stronger on every other map. I honestly wouldn't know how you would go about fixing it. Honestly, I think an 80% hatchet holding speed would be perfectly fine. Slinger's 92% when he's aiming down his sights. Trickster's 98% when he's throwing knives. And then Huntress is 70 right now. You could easily bump that up to 80. She's still going to be slower than 12% slower than Slinger is. She's going to be, 18% slower than Trickster is. 80% is still pretty big, too. That's the Survivor's essentially getting, 30% haste instead of a 40% haste? Technically, because she's slowing down so much, right? Instead of 110, she's going 80. So now the Survivor's moving at 100. But that's just the Huntress, right? And then you have the Hag. Now, the Hag can teleport, which kind of makes up for it. Her being 110, I think, is somewhat alright because she doesn't have to really suffer that much. She's got her trap she can teleport to. Yes, if she teleports and whiffs a hit, then she's got to, pretty much initiate a regular chase unless they hit a trap. But Hag, out of all these killers here, I think Hag is the best and really doesn't need any changes at all. But I'm almost 100% sure they're fixing her, tweaking her, just because she has such a low pick rate. Like, her pick rate is, I think it's the lowest in the game besides the Twins. Yeah. I think she's the second lowest, if I remember right. Then you got the Pig, who's in an absolutely awful spot. In all MMR, she's solid. She's got a 60% kill rate, which is above average. And then in the high MMR, she drops pretty significantly. So I can understand why they're going to change her up. They're probably going to... I don't even know what they're going to do to her, to be honest. Peanuts himself said it's not going to be a nerf, so it's definitely going to be a buff for Pig. I don't know if that's going to be straight across the board. Peanuts also did specify that the tweaks are going to be base kit killer tweaks and add-ons. So each of the killers on this list are getting some base kit changes too. So yeah, that's Hag, that's Pig, that's Huntress. Maybe they improve her dash attack. Maybe they make her crouch speed faster. Demogorgon, I think they got him in here because now that he's available to everybody, they probably got a lot more math, a lot more stats, a lot more new data for him. So they're probably just tweaking some small things here and there, maybe reworking some add-ons. The Clown, out of all these, the Clown probably struggled the least with the made for this meta because his bottles slow down by, a certain amount more with add-ons, So the Clown probably didn't struggle too much with the made for this meta, but the point still stands. He is a very low kill rate killer. They could just be tweaking some stuff about his reload speed. Who knows the size of these changes, to be honest. So the Doctor also probably suffered pretty bad from the made for this meta because that 3% faster kind of messes with your timing on windows and pallets and landing your shocks and whatnot. And then resilience and hope on top of that. So that's where all these killers come from, in my opinion. That's my thought process behind them. But people are saying, what kind of bothers me is that people say these killers are fine and they don't need any changes. But I just think that's not true at all. This is a live service game, right? They update it, every single month. I think no matter how well balanced the killer is, every single year you should still reassess that killer. What new perks are in the game? What new options do survivors have? What things have we changed? What things have we removed? Does this killer still rely on things that aren't in the game anymore? Was the killer really good in this scenario and now we removed that scenario? Was the killer struggling in this scenario and now that scenario is even worse? So it doesn't matter how good Huntress is or how well balanced she is, even though she was never well balanced to begin with. She's well balanced, but it never changed the fact that she's terrible on indoor maps. If you picked Huntress and you got an indoor map through no fault of your own, you're just at a huge disadvantage. No fault of your own. It's nothing on you. It's not your skill. It's nothing you can improve at all. If you get cooked and they get a 4-man out, you just got to sit there and be like, well, damn. Lucky they got that map, I guess. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to bring up. People say she's in a good spot and she doesn't need changes, but she does need changes. She does. There's no reason why I should be punished for picking the Huntress. I mean, there's just no reason. Either they're not going to rework the maps, they're not going to remove the maps. The least they could do is make her 115 on those maps only. I'm sure they could code it to where it detects it's an indoor map and then it applies a permanent 5% haste to the Huntress for that whole match. Because honestly, it's not fair that I'm a 110 killer who moves at 70%, which is the slowest speed in the entire game, barring fatigue, slower than Nurse, when I'm holding a hatchet. There's no reason why I should have to suffer on a map like Larry's. Just, they could add some coding in to where it's like, okay, this player's playing Huntress, they're playing on Larry's, make her hatchet holding speed 80%, make her 115 just for this match. And I mean, I think that's the only way you could fix it. Honestly, I think you could take that and put it across the board because, oh, let's be honest, a 115 Huntress with an 80% hatchet holding speed wouldn't really be that crazy. Would she be a lot stronger than she is now? Yeah, of course. She's still moving at 80, which is not the slowest. Nurse is slower than that, but she's the slowest moving projectile killer. And, of course, Blight's still better. Nurse is still better. Spirit's still better. Wesker's still better. Plague's still better. I think that's all the people I would say is better. Pyramid Head would probably still be better since he can, hit through walls, especially if he's running like Thrilling Tremors, right? No, I think a 115 Huntress with a 80% hatchet hold speed would probably be better than Pyramid Head. But right now, Pyramid Head is better than Huntress for sure. I would say so pretty comfortably. She does have the most counterplay. Out of all the killers in the game, she has the most counterplay. And I think that's why she should be fine to be buffed to make her not miserable on indoor maps. Because she has counterplay. We're not saying she's moving 115 while holding a hatchet. No, she's 115, and then she drops to 80 while holding a hatchet. So is she going to be able to land more hatchets? Oh, absolutely. But at the same time, you can still dodge hatchets. The hatchets aren't going to be going any faster. You know what I mean? If a Huntress throws a hatchet right away, it moves at 20 meters a second. If you're at 20 meters, you have a whole second to dodge that hatchet. There's no reason at all. If you're looking behind you while running, there's no reason you should ever get hit by her hatchet. Unless she fully charges it, or you're below the 20 meter mark. You say you're 10 meters away, you know what I mean? Or, you're zigzagging and she catches you in your pattern. Or she just guesses and thinks, okay, he's going to go to the right, and throws it, and you go to the right and catch it. But even then, if you're over 20 meters away and she just lobs it really quick, yeah, you should easily be able to dodge that. She has way more counterplay than Trickster. I can't believe Trickster's 115. Like, if anybody was going to be 115 first, Trickster or Huntress, I would have thought it would have been Huntress. I'm not sure why the killer tweak section is so controversial. I think all these killers could use a little something because their kill rates are so low. People say, oh, Huntress's kill rate's so low because new players. Well, also, it says top 5% MMR, which is not new players. To get top 5% MMR, you have to be playing for at least a couple hundred hours. And she has the lowest kill rate, one of the lowest kill rates in the game at the top 5%. So that's not just new players. That's probably due to a map problem. But also probably due to just the killer in general. I think she's a little bit outdated. She's my favorite killer, but she's a little bit outdated. I think she could use a few little buffs here and there. But, you got survivors, and I don't blame them. But they do not want killers to be buffed at all whatsoever because they already feel like the game's killer-sided. Even though it should be killer-sided to a little degree, it's Dead by Daylight. It's a killer video game. Like, that's the main aspect of it. It's not really the survivor side that, yes, they're feeding into that and they're playing into that because it's 4 times as many survivors as killers and they buy the most stuff. But honestly, it's catering towards horror fans. It caters towards people who like Michael Myers and they want to play Michael Myers and they want to be able to kill survivors. So I fully agree that it should be a 60% kill rate. Like that, yeah, absolutely. Like Friday the 13th, I think the kill rate in that game was like, 70 or 80 on average. And I never felt annoyed about that. Jason was just so damn strong in that game. I'd hit his ass with a baseball bat, and I'd be like fucking doing the little dance on him and shit, and then he'd get up and cut my head off in like one shot. And I'm like, yeah, on to the next one. I never felt bad about it, and I never really feel bad about being killed by killers in this game, because it's like, yeah, they're supposed to be stronger. They're the power rule. I'm supposed to be afraid of them, but I mean nowadays, you're not at all. You fucking body block for them, disrespect them, click in their face and shit and teabag. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that, talk about the controversial killer tweaks. But yeah, I think everybody just needs to chill out, wait to see what the killer tweaks are, and then if they're bad, then you can rage. You know what I mean? Turns out the hag moves at 1% movement speed. You know what I mean? But when a trap gets triggered, she moves at 1,000. You know what I mean? Then you can rage. But we have no idea what they're planning. And even if you think these killers are in a good spot, you don't know the full story. The devs know the full story. The devs know, okay, on this map, this killer struggles. Why is that? How much is that bringing down the overall kill rate? This. And we don't know any of that at all whatsoever besides personal experience and anecdotes from other people. So we should just leave all this stuff up to them, and we should just see what they're going to do. But yeah, that does it for this one. Thanks for watching. I went off on a huge rant. I'm going to have to edit out like half of this, but yeah, that does it for this one. Thanks for watching. See ya.